What's up, everyone? It's Karthik with MoneyVest. Welcome on board for our Monday morning live stream here as we are seeing the markets rebound with yet another face ripper rally coming in, as we are seeing a rebound after Donald Trump, of course, cozying up to China, as well as the resolution, a little bit of resolution in the trade negotiations between the US and China after China slapped on some export bans and the US retaliated with 100% tariffs. A lot happened in the last 3 days, in 72 hours or so, and the markets have essentially whipsawed back and forth here with over $1.6 trillion worth of liquidation, and we're most likely going to see about half of that kind of re-enter back into the market, then of course find out if this were to continue, if it has any kind of holding power, or if we're going to see this move entirely fade off as the day progresses. We got lots to discuss here in this market open. We got QQQs up over 1.6%. We've got iron up over 6%, Nvidia up over 3% right now pre-market, and Tesla here also rallying over 2%, with S&P 500s also up over 1.2%, with SoFi pre-market up over 4.2%. and Palantir at the moment is up over 2.3%. The options portfolio is right now up over $9,000, and we'll see how much of that actually stays, or if that's going to be more after the markets open here, given the insane volatility is what we're witnessing in the markets as well. So I did take a trade on TQQQ, as I mentioned in my Friday's update. I did sell a put on TQQQ that expires in 4 days. That's a $94 put right now. It's going to get adjusted as soon as the market opens. And of course, earlier in the year, I did also take a trade on TQQQ. That's why the P&L for the year to date here is over 8,000 on this one here. So right now I've got 8 positions. Of course, these are all of them. I do give out updates every single week on our Patreon and Discord as well. So once again, thank you so much for joining, everybody, and was hoping markets are going to keep dropping further. Yes, volatility was indeed higher, and we were, of course, ready for deploying some capital into the markets, but this is what you get. This is what we see in this volatile market, as they can be swinging back and forth here on the back of these very unpredictable tweets from the president, right? So that is one of the reasons why we're seeing the markets rebound very well, is S&D puts it, good morning, taco, right? So Trump always chickens out, is what we also talked about in our Fridays and over the weekend updates as well. So Michelle says, I didn't want taco, but we might get minus 15% due to the shutdown economic downturn as well. Vamsi, good morning, ready for the ride here. Mike, nothing like being interrupted watching MoneyVest video to watch a MoneyVest live. Good morning, everybody. And yes, thank you so much for joining. I thought it was my time to start trading options, but I will remain patient and wait for the VIX to spike again. Rakesh, you can look into selling puts. I think that's a very, very good starting strategy. That's exactly what I did on Friday with TQQQ, is that I essentially sold puts. Because of the fact that TQQQ was down so much, it actually presented a very good opportunity to sell puts, right? So on any kind of big red days, I think that's the one starting point, is you can actually start looking at selling out of the money puts for stocks that you really want to own, for stocks that are on your watch list, that are high quality, high conviction stocks here. And you can, of course, pick out the strikes, pick out 20 deltas, 15 deltas, and just sell those puts. The only thing is that you should be ready to actually buy the stock at that desired price. And in TQQQ's case, I'm actually very ready to buy at $94 because I plan to buy more. I plan to dollar cost average more if it sells off further, right? So we closed at $97. And for 94, TQQQ would have had to drop another 3%, which would have been very possible. I mean, the NASDAQ would have only had to drop 1%, and TQQQ would have been there. And I would have really picked up the stock here around the 50 EMA, and I would have bought more. I would have sold closer to $85, $86 puts. That would have been my next strike. And then, of course, really layering it down to around $74, $75. So anything in and around those levels where I would be a lot more aggressive. Right now, I started with 1 put. Then I would be selling 3, 7, 12. We'll continue to acquire more and more shares of this stock, because that's the trade that I really want to take on TQQQ. So yes, anytime we see any kind of market momentum to the downside, there is opportunity. Let's take a look here. Breakfast tacos. I actually had tacos like a few days ago. I had them over the weekend actually. Yes, I had them over the weekend. I think Saturday is when I had tacos for lunch. So let's see. So I want to start selling puts on SoFi. Even if I get assigned, I can sell covered calls. Yes, that's how the wheel strategy works. William says people always complain if he does or if he doesn't. Yes, that's always true as well. Should I cost average down my position in BITX 25 shares at 65.94, Dalton? So BITX, I am very optimistic over the long term. I think Bitcoin and Ether are positions worth taking, and this is exactly one of the reasons I am building a position in BITX and Ethereum. So if you come over to the position here, I've got about 450 shares of BITX in the position right now, and then of course I've got covered calls, $65 and $66, which are most likely going to expire worthless and out of the money. The December one is a little bit farther away, but the November one will most likely, in my opinion, expire out of the money, which I will close out very soon. And of course, I will continue to build out that position in BITX and also in Ether. So long answer short, I am buying. I'm going to continue dollar cost average. I do think that a much stronger support is going to be closer to $49.50, but given that your cost basis is literally at that resistance, $65, then a little bit of a DCA can help here, and then maybe more around the $49 to $50 mark if you have a similar thesis for crypto over the long term as I do. So what's your plan with your TQQQ CSP? So planning on holding it, not really doing much. It's going to expire in about 4 days. So right now we're up 4.8%. So most likely it's going to get further out of the money. It's going to be up, 20, 30, 40%. I'll evaluate when the market opens in about 40 minutes here. And then I'm planning to hold it all the way through. So even if I get assigned at $94, as I was talking about earlier, I'm more than happy to acquire shares at $94. And then we'll sell more puts at 85 and then some more at 74, and then more if it drops further in the mid 50s. And each time I'm going to be sizing up the position. Right now I just started with one put. At 85, maybe I'll do a couple puts. At 74, maybe I'll do like 5 of them. And then at 57, maybe I'll just double down even more to continue to dollar cost average more aggressively as the markets are selling off. And so that's the whole idea. That would be my trade, right? It's, yes, you can pick a lot of stocks. You can buy a lot of individual companies as well as they are selling off. But I prefer to just utilize my energy on one trade and make it very precise. And that's going to be TQQQ. And we made good money earlier this year on the April rally, on the April reversal, on SOXL and TQQQ combined. And that's going to be the plan to do that again if we see any kind of tariff tantrum and for this to escalate further. So that's pretty much going to be the trade that I'm going to take. Can you explain your thought process behind it? Technical. Why the inclination towards leverage? Just curious. Well, I mean, you're getting 3 times that momentum, right? So TQQQ and a lot of these leveraged ETFs are not for holding, right? So they're not for buying and holding these positions long term because of the drawdown, right? Because they can really accelerate that drawdown significantly, right? So you'll have to stomach through some pretty brutal markets in order to be successful over the long term with these leveraged positions. But since they are not meant for long-term investing, what are they meant for? They're meant for trading, and that's exactly what I use them for, is for trading, right? If we understand volatility, the Money Vest Index, the market thresholds, which is how much the markets are down from their all-time highs, which, by the way, this is the dashboard that we are building. And over time, there's going to be more and more really cool and interesting data sets, which is going to give you like a whole bird's eye view of the market. And right now, you'll notice that we are in a dip, right? So we're down about 3% from all-time highs. This is not accounting for how much we're up pre-market. But this market threshold, eventually you'll be able to click on these values and there's going to be a whole chart that comes up. It's going to show you the percentiles. It's going to show you historical values, historical charts, a lot of really detailed view of that metric. And once we sort of understand, okay, now is the time where the risk reward is extremely, extremely favorable. It's a very, very good. The Money Vest Index is low. Volatility is pretty high. We're going to add the VIX to this dashboard as well. The market threshold, we're down maybe in a correction or in a bear market. We're in a consistent down streak. Market performance has been abysmal. That's when we can layer in on that leverage trade on TQQQ because that's the whole idea, right? So We obviously did pick up a lot of shares around here, $45, $46 back in April. Given that I did sell a little too early because of the fact that it's leveraged and I don't want to hold on to them for super long. But that was the entire trade, and we're just looking at another one of those trades. And you guys all remember, right? We took a trade on SOXL. I know a lot of people made 200, 300% on SOXL. So if given the opportunity once again, if SOXL trades back down to like $10, $12, $15, of course, a lot of us would be very interested in rinsing and repeating that trade once again. So it is really about being precise with your entries, doing the preparation ahead of time, and when the opportunity presents itself, it's really just kind of executing. That's it. It's literally just execution at the end of the day once the opportunity comes out. Okay, what's the longest you'd hold TQQQ? There's no one way to answer that question because markets can collapse in weeks or it can take years. So there isn't any specific timelines, but it does really boil down to your understanding of risk reward and really just how favorable and unfavorable the market conditions are. And so from that sense, you could argue that, we've been on this 3-year bull market since 2022 is when the bull market actually ended for S&P 500. And that would be correct based on just the facts of the bull market because, since 2022, the markets are up over 87%. And again, same thing is true for QQQ's NASDAQ 100 since the end of that bear market of 2022, the QQQs are up over 136%. But if you come take a look at TQQQ, they're obviously up probably more. But at the same time, you're going to have to sit in, I should say, a lot of these 63, 64% sell-offs, right? So 35% drop here, and then another 43% drop here, and then another 61, 62% drop here. So, from its lows, it's up over 532%. So if you were to kind of have that precise entry, pinpointing it right at the October 2022 low, theoretically, yes, you could have held it all the way through now and be up like 530%, but then had to sit through multiple 40, 50, 60, 70% drops, which I don't think many people can do in the world of finance and investing, is if you can see your portfolio down like 60%, 70% and still be able to hold it. Sounds good on a spreadsheet, but definitely not something that can be applied in real life. So yeah, BMNR is pushing higher. It's jumping a little bit pre-market. We're getting that after Ethereum also rallied. Fubo analysis, we'll take a look at that here. Get in the water, guys. Everything is fine. Makes sense. Thanks. Definitely got to have the stomach to hold it. Yes, correct. Pray that China doesn't sneeze or else we go back down. True. They're still having those conversations with each other, right? So there's still going to be negotiations happening. And as Trump tweeted over the weekend that they don't want to hurt China, they want to work with them. We'll find out what happens between these two countries. But bottom line is that any kind of corrections and dips that we do experience on the back of external factors, right? Factors that don't necessarily have a long-term sustainable risk to the market, in my opinion, are overreactions and worth buying. This is getting very evident to a point where I think any kind of tariff threat at this point, market's overreaction to any kind of tariff threat is a buying opportunity, period. Because, and one of the things that I also did mention is, the administration looks at the stock market as a barometer for their performance, right? So the markets, can sell off, and it's the market's way of being vocal of how much they dislike these tariffs. Obviously, investors can't protest, but investors can sell. And when they do sell, stocks sell off. And when they sell off, the performance is down, sentiment is down, everything starts to go in the wrong direction. And one of the greatest metrics for how good or bad that administration was is how good the performance of the stock market was, right? So if it's sitting at an all-time high, if it's performing well, the administration would consider that as a success. And then, of course, vice versa, right? The opposite is also true. And for those reasons, I think President Trump definitely does look at the markets on a day-to-day basis to really see how they're doing, because it's almost in every single tweet, not in every one of them, but every other tweet, he does want to mention, oh, the markets are at an all-time high, the performance is good, the economy is growing, things like that. So that's why over the long term, I don't see any of these tariff rates ever getting implemented, because it's just not going to work out for the market or for the economy or for the world as well. Okay, just going to come over to some of the comments here. We're going to take a look at some stocks. Let's take a look at Fubo, Enphase very quickly. We'll go over these companies here. So Enphase, I've got a support level that's sitting roughly at around this $33 level, all the way down to $30. And it's been struggling, of course. It's been sitting below its 50 EMA for a long time. And so resistance is going to be all the way up to 43.50, and then another resistance maybe closer to $38 right now for Enphase. Any kind of swing trading opportunity, sure, but I'd just be a bit more careful because there is a lack of volume. It's not as active right now. So as a result, we're not really seeing a lot of momentum for this company, so to speak. Coming over to Fubo TV. So this right here is the uptrending channel. Looks like we have done some analysis on this stock here. Higher highs and higher lows starting to break down from this area of support, and right now coming down to this higher low. So pre-market, it is a little bit higher, and there is momentum. I think Fubo could be a potential nice candidate for a swing trade, as it is coming down to pretty oversold levels here, and resistance and targets back up to over 470. And that's going to be inside this uptrend for Fubo TV. And there's going to be another really strong support around the 320 mark. 320, 325 is going to be those levels to also watch. Anthony, I'm going to get to your question, man. I'm getting to all the questions here, but please don't spam the chat. So I'm not ghosting anybody. And I'm going to get to everybody's questions, all right? So I'm going to get to everyone's questions as quickly as possible. But I would appreciate if you don't spam the chat, because then there would be not chat for you to spam eventually. So, all right, let's take a look at CIFR. So we just went over TQQQ, Enphase, Fubo. Let me come over to CIFR, and then we'll look at question from Raj. But let's take a look at CIFR here. Cypher mining, I would say it's incredibly overbought right now. So again, you got the R side over 72. Support level is going to stay up roughly at 824, 825. That is going to be that level to watch. Another support that I would mark out is going to be closer to $11. So of course, we got a nice little breakout. Came back down to that support, rallied back up to all-time highs. Or is it all-time highs? Yes, it is all-time highs. And even on the weekly time frame, incredibly overbought and extended here to the upside, right? So from its lows of $1.84, up almost 1,000%, and so support level $11 down to $8. And right now, just be a bit more cautious, more careful, given where it's trading at the moment. Raj, I'm a newbie on stocks. I am looking to invest around 100K on high growth stocks and looking at 2 to 3 year period. Do you have any recommendations? So yes, we have a lot of ideas in terms of growth stocks. That's literally what we cover on the channel. And of course, we've got a whole shopping list built around growth stocks and technology and, some of the themes that I believe in over the long term. So yes, all of that, we have discussed on the channel and on the website as well, for the long term. Right? That's really where our focus is long-term growth investing is where we shine as a community, because that's the main focus here. All right, let's take a look at ORBS very quickly. All right, Anthony gave me a thumbs down, so we're gonna skip past ORBS, I guess. Which broker do you use? Charles Schwab, Fidelity, IBKR, Webull. There's a lot of them. We've got a whole broker list on our Discord that we essentially have curated from the community, right? So all of our community members have talked about which brokers they use depending on where they're located. And so you can refer to that broker list that goes over all of them. So depending on where you are from, you can essentially see what broker works best. So that's that. Yeah, CIFR we just went over. Trump has more mood swings than my girlfriend. Okay, we covered all of this. Let's take a look at Sunrun for Robinson here. So that's going to be this one right here, RUN. So again, Sunrun kind of fits, all these other electric renewable energy companies, I believe, very similar to the installation and development and ownership and maintenance of solar energy systems. So very similar to Enphase or Solar Edge. So Robinson, I would say it's coming up to our resistance right now. It is overbought on the weekly time frame. So you can see the RSI, MACD, L3 Banker Oscillator coming up to that resistance around the $20 to $21 mark. So that is a triple top, might even be a quadruple top for the stock here. So of course, we've seen a lot of rejection for this right about here. So I'd be careful moving forward, and support level is going to be very strong around the $8.50 to $9 mark for Sunrun. Okay. Yes, consider joining us. Definitely. I think that would be very, very helpful and useful. Bijal, let's take a look at LEU. Centrus Energy. A lot of energy stocks here. A lot of energy mining, renewable energy. A lot of those ideas. I love it. And even for this, again, overbought, very much extended to the upside, and very similar to Cypher Mining that we just covered. Support level is going to be closer to 164. And just be also wary of the candlesticks, right? So this does represent a lot of sellers stepping in, at the highs of 420. And of course, selling right back down. Another candle I want to show you is PayPal, right? PayPal's weekly candle looks absolutely crazy, right? So if you take a look at how many longs would have just gotten trapped at that price point, because it got up to from 70 all the way to $77. That's a $7 wick right there for PayPal. And of course, sellers stepping right back down to bring it back to like under 70, right? So that was quite an insane candle for PayPal last week, and similar to LEU. And again, a lot of stocks that do kind of echo this kind of candlestick does represent there are sellers stepping in. There is a little bit of resistance there, and so support level is going to stay put at 164 for LEU. So that's that. And let's see, moving forward, I still believe in VIX move as it is over 20. Yes, if it gets up to 28, 29, 30, that I think is going to be very, very good for volatility. And of course, for the market, it's going to be a healthy pullback. And that's going to represent some good buying opportunities for all of us. Prerit, I know you mentioned that people will move a lot into crypto as they look for assets similar to gold. What else is your thesis behind crypto being bullish? I also think that the limitation on supply is something that is going to be more and more understood and something that's going to be more and more adopted globally. And I think even the US is silently making a lot of moves in the crypto world because otherwise we're just going to be entering into this. And this is more of a larger macroeconomic discussion of much longer cycles where we get into this runaway inflation or runaway devaluation of currency, of fiat currency, because it's just, you can print as much as you want. And at some point, we're going to have to look at some alternatives. And that's one of the reasons why gold and silver and Bitcoin and Ether have been such great performing assets is because they are limited in supply. And I think that is one of the big reasons why I'm kind of more gravitating towards Bitcoin. All right, Sunrun we covered earlier. Prerit, we covered your question. Can you please take a look at LAC? So let's take a look at LAC here. So Lithium Americas. Okay, so we got a 1.8 billion market cap. I think this was not part of the list. Okay, so this was a little bit of a different company here with a huge 2 back-to-back weeks of massive pump here. Looks like we've done some analysis. I would say it's supported around 750. But with a lot of these businesses, everyone, just make sure that you understand that you're trading on that momentum because none of them actually are making any money, no revenues, and losses are piling up. So yes, it's up 149%, but just know that these are mostly trades. These are not meant to be held long term, unless of course you're okay with that level of volatility where the stock can, literally just go up over 85% and then of course drop over 25-30% or more in a very short span of time. So if you're okay with that volatility, that's totally fine. But support levels for LAC is going to be $5 and $7.50. Those are going to be the two levels to watch for this LAC stock. Broadcom's up 10% on OpenAI and Broadcom partnership. Oh my God, yes. I forgot to talk about that. It's up another 10.5% here on partnership. OpenAI taps Broadcom to build its first AI processor in latest chip deal. Another one bites the dust. Another one. God, so this circular flow continues. The closed ecosystem where technology companies, semiconductor companies are just partnering up with each other. And OpenAI is partnered with Broadcom to produce its first in-house artificial intelligence processors. The latest chip tie-up for ChatGPT Maker as it races to secure computing power needed to meet the surging demand for its services. And it's up 10%. Support level now is going to stay put at 356 for Broadcom, with a resistance all the way up to 374, 375 for Broadcom. So that's going to be that level to watch. So yeah, that's where we are. Do you think this is a fake out? Well, it's kind of hard to say because I think a lot of what was the reason that triggered the sell-off on Friday is off the table, at least for right now. President Trump has shown the eagerness to actually make a trade deal and sort things out. So really, the ball's in China's court, where they're going to have to come back and what kind of negotiations and resolutions we can come up with. Can things escalate? Yes, absolutely. Will they? Maybe. But are they going to be persistent or sustainable? Probably not, because as I said, they're both very much dependent on each other long term. And so it's really going to be hurting. They're both going to be kind of hurting each other in the long term. So, okay. Broadcom moving. Yep. So, AMPX thoughts here. Let's take a look at AMPX. Okay, so we've got a support, I'd say around $11.90, closer to $12. We did see a lot of consolidation and a little bit of this symmetrical triangle before the breakout, and then of course coming back down to that support right about here at $10. So those are going to be the two support levels to watch for AMPX at $11.90 and $10, and a resistance that right now stays put roughly around $14. So that is going to be that level to watch for AMPX. Anthony, well, please don't ghost me and I won't spam. What do you guys think? Should we give him another chance? I'll let the community decide. Should we go over Anthony's question, give him another chance? What do you guys think? We are pretty forgiving here in this community, so I'll just we'll just go for it. Hopefully you don't spam ever again. But let's take a look at 8Co ORBS. So looks like we have done some analysis on this in the past. This stock has come up quite a few times because of the insane volatility here. But this is exactly what I was talking about earlier, is that you have to be incredibly careful with what is a long-term investment versus what's a short-term momentum trade. And 8Co is a prime example, right? I mean, it probably trapped so many longs inside that wick from 44 to 83. That's like a $40 wick. If you look at it in percentages, that's like an 81% wick. Just 81%. Imagine how many people might have been trapped at that price point. And from those levels, it's already down 81%. So just be incredibly, incredibly careful on how you trade these. Of course, it's kind of stabilized a little bit. And if you are planning any kind of trades, I would say 780 is a pretty strong support, aligned with the level that we bounced off of earlier, and the 50 EMA. And you've got a resistance that is closer to 1340, 1350. So that's really the range within which I would trade this. And if it breaks below 780, I'm out, right? That would be a very, very strong area of support for ORBS. So, all right, let's just come back here. Where were we? So how can I find you on Discord? Moritz, I'm usually on the private chat. So private chat is where you can find me. Don't engage with any of the scammers. Don't engage with any of the impersonators. There is a lot of them. So definitely do not fall for those. Okay, let's see. Remind me of the ticker that deals with the Swiss or Norwegian currency. I forgot which country, Andy. Which company deals with Swiss or Norwegian currency? Huh. The ticker. Are you talking about like an ETF that trades in those currencies, or are you talking about a specific company? If you can share more details, maybe I can try to think about it, but yeah, BMNR pushing higher. We already covered that. AMTX, let's just go over that very quickly. And market's going to open in about 10, 13 minutes. We'll come back to the indices here in just a minute. But for AMTX, I would say a very strong support is going to be right around here. $2 to 220s with a resistance where we seem to be getting rejected at right now is around 320 to 330 for AMTX. So that would be that support level to watch. Thoughts on NLR nuclear ETF for all the AI power? So I'll have to take a look at it. VanEck uranium nuclear ETF and see what kind of stocks it has. But so far, oh my God, since April, this thing is up like 140%. Wow. So yeah, again, one of those wicks that we were talking about earlier. Lots of selling pressure coming in. Pre-market, of course, pushing right back up to 5.4%. But one of the great databases is going to be etfdb.com. You can just come over here, type in whatever it is that you're looking for, whatever ETF that you want to study. For example, if you go over to VanEck uranium and nuclear ETF, you'll notice that under holdings, what kind of stocks it has, the exposure, all that. You can read the prospectus, everything, expense ratios, all of that. It's got about 0.5% expense ratios to better understand if it's an ETF that you are interested in or not. So it could be a good thematic ETF that we can add to our watch list as well. CMI, Trump is happy guy right now with the hostage release. AFRM, let's take a look at CMI and AFRM. We covered a lot of stocks today, which is good. So for CMI, selling off last couple days here, coming down to that 50 exponential moving average, I would say a decent support sits around the 405 level. So $405 is going to be a good level to watch all the way down to as much as 390s for CMI. So we're seeing a little bit of a pullback, of course, but those right there are going to be two support levels to watch. So let's look at a firm. Also selling off a little bit, now below its 50 moving average, and it's now trading at a support around $70, down to as low as around $62 for AFRM. It's starting to show a little bit of a bear flag, so I would say that this was, again, some selling pressure, a little bit of consolidation, and right now we're starting to see a bit of a breakdown below this bear flag for AFRM. Okay, let's see. I have to rejoin the MoneyVest Discord group as I still don't understand how the put options work. Yes, we've got a whole, options course on it because it essentially shows you everything from start to finish on how to sell options the right way. And again, selling options, trading options has been life-changing for me because it's allowed me to pick up stocks that I really want to at my desired price while getting paid premiums, collecting those premiums, reinvesting them back into the long-term positions, and tracking my progress and everything is discussed in the options portfolio, right? So we talk about that in our Discord and Patreon all the time. So yes, if you have any questions, I'm more than happy to even schedule a call. Just email me at admin@moneyvest.com, and I'm more than happy to go over that. So I'm gonna try to cover a few more here as the markets are about to open, but let me just go over a few more. Please review Pure Storage, this company actually making money and profit. So we'll take a look at that for Alistair very quickly here. So PSTG, storage units, storage companies are always phenomenal. I think they are incredible, but it's actually quite surprising they're not paying a dividend yield. Wait, this is different business. I might have completely not understood what this company actually does, because they're not in the storage business, engaging in delivering innovative, disruptive data storage products and services that enables customers to maximize the value for data. Okay, so they are, data storage online, but not the actual public storage type business model. So makes sense. Since April, stocks up very nicely, over 173%. We're looking like pretty low margins for a tech company. If you just come here, income statement, yep. So we're looking at around, pretty low 3-4% margins here. In terms of annual earnings growth, we're looking at $1.94, growing to over $3. That's pretty good, 50% growth here over the next couple of years. And revenue also expected to increase for the long term. And balance sheet wise, we're looking at a negative net debt, so that's pretty solid. Let's just quickly come over to the shares outstanding, which has been pretty stable, slowly increasing on an annual basis. So I would say overall, this looks for pretty good fundamentals here from this business. But of course, it's incredibly overbought right now. So I would watch that support around 71.50 for this stock. Alex, how would you do cover calls with 20K? Would you get just premium for one stock, or do you prefer multiple stocks? I feel like the capital is too small to do multiple stocks with 100 shares. So $20,000, it really boils down to the price of the stock that you are trading in order to get how many contracts or how many stocks you really want to trade. Of course, with 20 grand, NVIDIA is not possible. Most of the Magnificent Sevens are not going to be possible because, if you think about it, well, actually NVIDIA, one contract, 100 shares is 18,800, right? So yes, 100 shares of NVIDIA or anything just under $200 really is what's possible, right? So now you could do, multiple stocks that are $20, $40, $70. All of it has to really just total out to $200, right? That's really what you can do with it. So it's either a mix of SoFi and Oscar and HIMS, like a lot of these, stocks that are priced lower, or if it's like one NVIDIA contract, or Amazon and Tesla are out of question, Google, Microsoft are out of question, Apple is also out of the question. So NVIDIA is possible, AMD is possible. AMD, where is it trading right now? 218. So it was possible just like maybe Thursday, 160, 170, but of course, so it is possible. It just depends on what stocks you want to trade. And yes, poor man covered calls is another strategy that you can consider. So markets are about to open here. Just give me 1 second. All right, markets are about to open here. We got QQQs up over 1.8%, S&P 500 pushing up over 1.2%. We got Palantir up over 2%, SoFi pushing up over 4%, NVIDIA also up over 2.6%, 2.7% right now as well. Do you have a rule of wanting to close a covered call position 90% profit? Yes. So ideally, anything over 80% is what we target, and we close it out. But then it also depends on how close we are to expiration. If you are like a day away from expiration, you're up like 80%, might as well just wait another few hours. Next day, it's going to be up 90, 95%. And so it depends on where we are on the expiration. But yes, as a general rule of thumb, anything over 80% profit, we like to close it out early. So this is where we are, slightly selling off a little bit before the market opens. This thing was up over 9,000. Right now, we're only up 8,000 here on this options portfolio a few minutes before the market opens here. How are we feeling? Is this rally going to stick, or are we going to see a sell-off? Is this going to fade? Let's just do a very quick poll. Markets today. Rally, sell off. Let's just do this very quick Very quick poll. We got over 400 people watching. I want to see at least 50% participation. So 200 votes minimum is the requirement, so we can get a pretty good data set from everyone. I want to understand how weeklies work. I was assigned 2 weeks from when I sold a put for BBAI. I thought weeklies settle weekly. So if it's in the money, the buyer can exercise their right to obviously, sell the stock, and you as the seller will have the obligation to buy it. And so always remember, when you're selling options, you have the obligation. When you're buying options, you have the right. And so if it's like deep in the money and the buyer exercises their right, then there is a probability, there's a very high probability that you don't have to wait until expiration and you get assigned your shares even before the expiration. So that can happen. So Alistair, yes, Patreon members get access to the YouTube members only videos. They are the same in the stocks and personal finance videos. They're the same that are already uploaded on Patreon. So, hey Caddy, long time, used to visit you years. I'm interested in joining the community. I have about 10K a month to deploy, waiting for the VIX to hit higher highs. Would you start with Magnificent 7? So JLS, that's a great plan. I think that's about $120,000 a year of deployment of capital, and that's a pretty good number that can compound over many years. Obviously, you can reach skies in terms of your portfolio value. So yes, we've got a whole list of very, very high quality ideas on the website, and they're not that far off. Like I said in my previous Friday's update, they're like anywhere from 16 to 25, 30% away. You can always tweak those as per your own liking, but those are the stocks that I've already done a lot of research on to essentially put together a list of themes and ideas that I really believe in over the long term, including the Magnificent 7. So they include my support levels, my fair values, my buy targets. All of that is available to view on the MoneyVest website. And like I said, we're going to be redesigning the whole platform. So it's going to look more something like this, where you've got the MoneyVest index for the S&P, for the NASDAQ. And then, of course, you've got the dashboard, which is going to help you better understand the market dynamics, give you a bird's eye view. Fundamentals are going to be there. Volatility is going to be there. The market threshold, the MoneyVest index, the concentration, market breadth, momentum. It's going to be broken down by all these different factors. And then, of course, you can always come back to the snapshot. This is what the heat map, it's just getting reset because we're 1 minute away from market open. But then, of course, we did see a lot of selling pressure on Friday. So, yeah, perfect. Let me know if you have any questions, and more than happy to help. If anybody wants to set up a call, I usually take a lot of calls during market open. Emails admin@moneyvest.com. Email me. We can set up a Zoom call. I can show you around the community, Discord, Patreon, everything, the website. And any questions, I'm more than happy to answer always. So let's do this. 10 seconds till market open. CPI numbers, by the way, have been pushed back to next Friday, October 24th. They're not going to come out this week. Tomorrow we've got Jay Powell talking. And today we're going to monitor any developments that we get between US and China trade war as well. So markets are open. QQQs are up 1.7% right now. S&P 500 is up over 1% as well. We got NVIDIA pushing up over 3%. SoFi is up over 3% as well. We got 61%, so 2/3 of people expecting for this market to rally further, and 39% expecting the markets to sell off here. So how many strikes do you plan to open on a covered call out of the money? So strike selection is very, very important. There's a psychological piece to it. There's a fundamental and technical piece to it. So it's a really holistic approach to selecting strikes, because you don't want to pick the wrong strikes. Pretty obvious. I'm going to turn that off. This is coming straight from Webull, as all of my indicators are getting hit, or alerts are getting hit here. Okay. Just going to close this, I guess. Yeah, I'll reopen it later. Okay, so thank you so much for joining, everyone. Really appreciate you all. And again, if you have any questions, email me. I'm more than happy to, kind of help you in your journey. And all of our members, we're super dedicated to helping each other. That's the entire mission and philosophy and culture that we have here at MoneyVest, is everybody helping each other. So thank you so much for joining. Volatility here is a little bit under 20, starting to climb higher a little bit. And we're seeing the markets essentially higher, but not really a lot of momentum at the moment. So they're just kind of finding direction at the moment here. SoFi is pushing higher. Nvidia is pushing higher. If you come over to Magnificent 7, you got most stocks pushing higher. Silver, new all-time high. Gold almost getting up to a new all-time high as well, just under $4,100 per ounce. And silver also very, very strong at the moment. So thank you so much for joining. Really appreciate it. As always, happy investing. I'll see you all in the next